Today, we're going to do a much deeper dive into domains. So as a lot of you know, 23.2 was where we introduced domains. And so we're going to really share what they are, how they work, how you can use them. And alongside of me is Richard, who is our customer success manager, who a lot of you have had the pleasure of meeting. And if you haven't and you are a customer, we don't charge additional, it's included in your subscription. So take advantage of his knowledge and his experience. Most of you know, but he was a customer for multiple years before joining the team. So he's a great resource. He understands your pain. So what we're going to cover here, we're going to go through what are domains at a high level, what happened to the existing subject areas that you had already created if you are a long-term customer. We'll be diving into how domains are designed, created, and how you can use them. So a little bit more of a training session on that. We will cover permissions with domains because we did introduce new permissioning with that, which I know a lot of people requested for a while. We will cover licensing at the end based on where you're at and what you need. And then we will do the Q&A at the end. I will cut my end here and hand it over to Richard, and he will get you guys rolling.
All right. Thanks, Chase. It's good to see all of you here. I know a bunch of you. There's some of you I don't know, and I look forward to meeting you. So as Chase said, we're going to talk about domains. Domains are a big topic, obviously, with version 23.2. This is the big thing that happened with 23.2. The obvious question that people have is, what are domains? And then the immediate follow-up question is, what do I do with them? How do I use them? So that's kind of the topic for today. So to start off the question, what are domains? Let's take one step backward and ask the question, why do we have a data catalog in the first place? Why are you creating a data catalog? And there will be various answers that you all are thinking right now. But in general, those answers will all boil down to, we want to provide a single source of truth about our data and our data assets to our users. It's that single source of truth idea. So what are domains? Domains are a presentation layer between the data catalog and those audiences, those users. Make it easier for them to get to the data that is pertinent to them. So the short definition is, domains are logical groupings of data assets. The longer definition adds on to present the data in a way to those users that makes it easy for them to access that single source of truth. So in Dataedo, we have two types of domains now. We have business domains and we have data domains. And we'll just go through those two types separately. Business domains are logical groups of assets, as we said, and they're designed for business users. That's the key here, designed for business users, so that these business users who probably don't have any knowledge about the physical structure of the data sources, nor do they care. They want to get into your single source of truth, into the data catalog, and find the information so they can use the data correctly and appropriately to do their jobs. They're focused on their area. They want to see those assets. So that third point there, they align with organization departments because that's the way the business users think. They come in, for example, from the finance department, and they don't care about anything else. They want to see the data about and the information about finance department and about their tasks within that. So the domain structure idea is, give them that. Don't give them everything else so that they are not lost in the magnitude of the information that's available. That whole idea of presenting to them the assets and the information that is pertinent to their job. Flip side, data domains are more focused to technical users who they may be familiar with the data sources and the structures and comfortable working with them, but maybe they don't want to waste time, again, in that huge amount of data and data structures, metadata, available systems that is out there We want to focus them to that part of the data system that is pertinent to them, that third point. It aligns with data stewardship, ownership, responsibility, activity, that sort of idea. You present to them the data assets that are appropriate to their job. So I've written there that it's similar to data mesh. It's not the same as data mesh. Those of you who are familiar with data mesh, you know that it is defined and focuses around data as a product. So that's not exactly what data domains do, but it's the same type of an idea. With data mesh, you look at a data product and then you define or group those data assets that pertain to that product, and you assign that mesh area to people who have stewardship or responsibility or interactions with that data product and the data assets pertaining to it. This is the same kind of an idea. You create these logical groupings of assets that focus on stewardship, ownership, responsibility, and present it to your technical users. So that's really the definition of domains and the reason we've separated them into business domains and data domains. We'll get more into the detail of that here in a minute. Before I do that, though, I want to take a minute and answer this question. For those of you who are existing subscribers to Dataedo and you're familiar with subject areas, maybe you've created subject areas already and you're asking yourself, what happens when I upgrade to version 23.2? The short answer is you're safe. You're not going to lose those subject areas. The detailed answer, on this picture, we're looking in the upper left-hand corner. We have these 5 subject areas defined, and you're familiar with this structure where the subject areas are associated with a particular collection or data source. In this case, the AdventureWorks data source, and we have 5 subject areas defined in there. When you upgrade to 23.2, those subject areas will be migrated over into areas in the new version. But they will be disassociated from that collection. Here you can see they were associated with the AdventureWorks collection. Now they've been put into a data domain called AdventureWorks Migrated. AdventureWorks to be as a flag for you to remember that's where they came from in the old version, and migrated to say this was a migration. So everything else just migrates over. The ERDs, the descriptions, the associated assets, all of that migrates over. It just becomes a data domain at the level of the collection, and all of your areas remain in it. The name there, as I mentioned, AdventureWorks Migrated, is just a flag to you so that you know where it came from and that it was migrated. And you can edit that. That is just a title, so you can change it. You see here at the bottom, I changed that name from AdventureWorks Migrated to AdventureWorks Corp, just to illustrate that you can make that change. And then, of course, you do have that description that tells, again, this was migrated. That is an editable description. You can change it as needed. You know, once you begin working with this and fixing those migrated domains or migrated subject areas as needed to reflect the bigger and more robust version that you're going to create in domains. All right, next, how are domains designed and created? This is the reason we're here, is to actually see how this is done. So the theory behind that is you're going to start by considering the audience, because this is a presentation layer specifically for audiences or users. So consider who your audience is. Is it business or is it technical? And then within that, you start thinking about what groups they work with. You know, what are the different departments for the business users? Are there teams, and are there business processes that they work with? Things like that. Technical, you start to identify who is responsible for different parts of your data systems and start designing your domains around those. The second one here, how will users in that audience expect to find the information they're looking for? That's important, because when I show you the portal here in a minute, you'll see they will get in and they will have choices that funnel them into the appropriate place. So you need to know how they're going to be thinking. What is their mindset? And what will their decisions be that will lead them into the appropriate place? So think of good naming standards, good separation, and keep it clean so that it's obvious they can find what they're looking for. And then the third one, this is an added value here. You're a data expert, or you can rely on a data expert to help you increase visibility and insight by using domains. The question, what do your users not know that you can provide to them? An example of this is maybe some of your users don't know that you have a business glossary, and you can present those glossary terms to them in the domain that applies to them. And it's when you get in, it'll be right there available, and they can see, oh, there's more information here that I didn't know about. And so think about what else do they need, but they don't know that they need. It's that question of they don't know what they don't know. You're the expert, and you can give that to them. All right. One last thing there I wanted to mention is that the terminology here is particular. In the business domains, we have subject areas, and in data domains, we have data areas. Functionally, those are very similar, but operationally, they serve different purposes because of the different audiences. So in Dataedo, we do use the two terms subject area and data area to pertain to the different types of domains. Okay, here in the Dataedo portal, look here, and the very first place we go, we have on the side, we can choose business domains or data domains. In this repository, we have defined 4 business domains, and you can see those correspond to departments within this fictitious company. Data domains, we have 6 defined, and these correspond to data areas of stewardship, teams or groups of people who are responsible for different parts of the data systems. So if we go in here, we dig deeper into finance, for example, we see in the finance department, we have defined 3 teams of people: the accounting team, the asset management team, and the financial planning team. And so let's say, for example, the visitor or the user is on the accounting team. They can easily click into there, and then we see there are business processes or business activities there that they can choose from, and they say, oh, they recognize immediately, I am dealing with accounts receivable. They can click into that and start getting the information that is pertinent to that activity and to their space. In other words, you focus them and you guide them to information that is pertinent to them. Same thing when we go into data domains. Let's go to application department right there. If we start drilling in, for example, we've got financial apps, and you'll recognize those same 3 similar named areas: accounts payable, accounts receivable, and general ledger, but they're different because they're a different audience. It's possible that you have the same assets assigned to them. You probably do, but it's because people are coming in from a different place that you do it this way. The people who are coming in here, these business people or these technical people, they are coming in with the idea of being responsible for data flow, structures, and development of the app, and those sorts of things, where the business people are focused on using the data to do their job. So different purposes, but they end up in here looking at the data assets that are appropriate to their job. Okay, let's pop over and I'll show you how this work is actually done. We're going to go to the desktop app, and sorry for those of you who may not be subscribers yet. You may not be familiar with these 2 apps. We have the portal app, which is presentation to users, and the desktop app, which is for editors to manipulate and manage the catalog, to work with developing the catalog. So this is the same repository we were just looking at. And over here on the left side, we have these same business domains, 4 business domains: finance, HR, logistics, and production. The data domains, we have the same 6 data domains. This is the same repository. Now, you will recall that I said when the areas are migrated from 23.1 to 23.2, they become data domains. So they would be down in this area under data domains, right there. And how do they get to be? In my case, I have converted them back to being business domains. How does that happen? I simply pick them up, I click on it, and I can drag this up there and drop it. You can reorganize these at will. You can move your subject areas around. You can move them here. You could move them down and put them in a different domain here. It's all at will. You can move them and rearrange that as needed. You can also do a nested hierarchy here. So you can see we have a business domain of logistics. We have a subject area of inventory management, and we have 2 subject areas, 2 sub-subject areas inside of that: inventory catalog and inventory transactions. You can nest these up to 3 layers. And if they exist already, you can do that again. Simply click and drop it onto the one you want to be the parent. So you can move these around at will and design that structure from subject areas that already exist. Now you're going to get to the point where that's not enough, and you're going to need to create additional domains and additional subject areas. To do that, just as an example, over here on the left, I'm going to right-click on Business Domains line. It opens a menu where we have a choice, New Business Domain. You can do that to create another business domain in this group. You can do the same thing for data domains. Right-click, create a new data domain. You can also click on the name of an existing domain. I've clicked right there, right-click, and you can create a new business domain at the same level. It will create at the same level. Or you can come down here, add subject area. That will create a subject area that is a child of where you right-clicked. And if you right-click on a subject area, you can add one that will be a child of that. So I know that the description may sound weird, but as you right-click on it and you create some, you'll see immediately how that fits together. You're basically creating a tree of those domains and areas. And everything I just said applies to both business domains and data domains. Now, we're going to actually create a new business domain here. So I'm going to go to business domains, right-click, choose new business domain, give it a second to think. There we have it. You can see it's waiting for a title. So I'm going to call this marketing. There we have the new marketing business domain. And we can work with this. We can give it a description. We have our metadata custom fields up here that we can assign, technical owner. We can do, the tagging, all of those things we can put in there. I am now going to create a subject area within that business domain of marketing. So again, I right-click and I choose Add Subject Area. Give it a second. There we go. We're going to call this Products. If I can spell it right. Products. And here we have that products subject area within the marketing business domain. Again, we can add metadata over here. We can create an ERD when the time comes. We have all those same functions that we had when we were working with subject areas in the previous versions. All that functionality remains. The next item here is to add or link objects to this subject area. it's important to remember the difference here. We are not putting assets into the subject area or the domain. We're linking them to the subject area or domain. Linking is the key word there, because if you were to delete this domain or subject area later on, you don't want to delete any of those assets. You're only going to delete the link because they're not actually in it. They're linked to it. So that protects your data assets and everything that you're doing there. Of course, if you were to delete a subject area, you would lose, the description and the ERD, those things that are associated directly with it. Same as when we had subject areas before. That behavior is the same. So just remember, you're linking to, not adding to, not putting them in there. Now, we have two methods here of linking the objects, one in the browser over here, the Explorer, and one on the Assets tab. They take us the same place. So I'm just going to click on one. And we have this window where we can search for objects and add them. So I'm just going to type in here, I'm looking for objects, table objects actually, that are in the production schema. And as it turns out, they all start, the table names all start with the word product. And here we go. I have 14 of them. So I'm just going to check these. I check all of them that I want to include. In this case, I want all of them. So I check those, I hit save, and immediately we're updated. We have those 14 objects listed right there. They're all tables, and they also exist over here in the Explorer. You can see there are 14, and they're there by name. So now you're asking, what happens if I want to add more? I no longer have that link objects button. Right here in the content pane, there's an icon. You probably can't see it because it's small. It's identifiable because there's a green plus on that icon. You'll click on that to bring up that window again. So I'm going to add some more objects. This time, I'm going to limit that to glossary terms. And again, I'm searching for product in the name. Here we go. I have six glossary terms that have product in the name. Select those and save them. And here we have them. There are the 6 terms. And you can see they're in this list as well, right there. But you can see all of those things. That's how you add objects to your domain or subject area. Of course, you can remove them. If you were to right-click over here, you can remove the link. Likewise, if you don't want to keep that subject area or domain any longer, you can right-click and remove the repository. Again, that doesn't affect your assets. It only affects that link. All right. Okay, let's go back to this, see where we're at. All right, the next thing to cover is permissions. This is a big deal, as Chase mentioned, in the new version, because permissioning on domains allows you to become more granular. Let's go over here and show you how this works. So many of you, let's see. Okay, many of you are familiar with user management in Dataedo portal. This is where you create groups and you assign scope to those groups. I've done one here, data community members. Let's look at that. The scope of this is people in this group can see the AdventureWorks domain, and within that, they can see the they have the data community member rights, which means they can see the assets, but they can't edit them. They can interact with the community function. So that is the only thing that members of the data community can do, is they can see that one domain, and by inheritance, everything within it. Now, to show what that does, the effect of that is, let's log out, and I will log back in with a account here that is a member of that data community group. And you can see immediately they don't have access to this page, but let's see what they do have access to. Let's start with data sources. And if we go to the AdventureWorks data source, they do not have access to that collection. However, those of you who are really observant right now, you're saying, yeah, but they have tables and they have views. What gives? The reason is these tables and views in this list have been linked to the business domain that they do have access to. They have access to the AdventureWorks domain right there. And because of inheritance, they have access to all of those assets that are linked to that. So they may not have access to the data source or the glossary, but they have access to the specific objects within that. For example, there are those terms that they have access to. So that is a way that you can, as you design your domains and your subject areas and data areas, is you start making groups that give the access to the appropriate people to the appropriate subject areas. Everybody in your HR group has access to that subject area and the assets in it. They would not have access to the rest of them because those are not child entries to human resources. You could do the same thing for sales. Have a group of users who have access to sales, and then they would have access to the assets that are linked to that subject area. In my case, I assign them to the AdventureWorks, so they have access to everything there. But that allows you to modify and tailor your groups and give people access to exactly what they need. Again, we're getting back to that idea of presentation. Give them what they need and don't let them get lost in everything else. You don't want them to wonder if there's other information that they need, or if they're just seeing too much, they don't know what they are, they just get lost. On the other hand, this is a security issue as well, or feature. You can put into these domains and areas those assets that people are permitted to see. If you have sensitive tables or things that are not for public consumption, let's say, then you don't put them in that area and they won't be able to see them. So this idea of permissioning is very useful, and it gives you a lot of power as you design and work with your domains and your catalog as a whole. Again, it's this idea of presentation. Give the right people access to the right assets so they can do their job. We want people to use the single source of truth, and if they are able to find the specific assets that are pertinent to their job, they're more likely to come back. If they get in and it's just a huge swamp, let's say, of information, and they can't find what they need, the chances are that they're not going to be engaged and come back again. You want to give them what they need and nothing else.
And Richard, one second, we did have a question that is applicable here. So for the permission setup after upgrading to version 23.2, do we need to reallocate roles to groups, or previous setup is still valid?
It's maintained. Everything is maintained. And that is a very pertinent question, because I'm going to go off topic here for just a moment. In 23.2 user management, you no longer have the ability to custom define roles. We have the roles defined for you. They come to you out of the box. However, you see right here, I've got an admin custom and a viewer custom. These are roles that I defined prior to upgrading, so it maintains those. So if you have custom roles predefined, it will keep them, but moving forward, you won't be able to create new ones. You can create groups, so you can add a new group in here that's HR group or whatever, and then, just like before, you can go to permissions, add the appropriate role, add the appropriate scope, and tailor that for your need. So any customization you had is maintained, but to keep things simpler going forward, that ability to create new roles and modify permissions has been taken away. Over here, back to our deck. Other details about domains. First one is this nested objects view. If we go over here to the portal, let's look into our business domains. We're going to look at this structure that we've created. Down here at the bottom of this panel, you see this option, include nested areas. Let's turn that off. And notice all of our assets just disappeared. If I turn it back on, our assets reappear. That is because these assets are linked to the subject areas inside of this business domain. Nothing is linked directly to the business domain. So if we turn that off, we're saying, show me those assets that are linked to the business domain. There are none, and so it goes blank. Similarly, we linked no assets to the marketing subject area, but we did link them to the product sub-subject area. So there are those assets, the 6. And in this repository, I have a few more tables, but those are linked there. So it allows you to decide what you're looking at. Are you looking at this subject area and everything linked to any of its children, or are you looking only at that subject area? So that linked nested areas allows you to separate that view. The same thing works in the desktop. I won't show it to you. It works exactly the same way. Next item, important assets. We look at that right here. If we look at, let's turn on nesting. If we look at the assets that are in marketing and product, we can see this list. Here we go. This list of assets. Again, we have 6 terms. 3 of them are shown in this list, summary list. We have 19 tables. 3 of them are shown. As it turns out, these are the first 3 in each of those groups when they're organized alphabetically. So if I go to this, let's look at this one. Here is the list of all 19 tables that are in that, that are linked to the product. Let's go there and do it. That are linked to that product subject area, that whole list of 19. Let's choose some different ones and say, these are important. We want people to see these first. That is done right over here with this star. So let's just choose some. Let's choose product, product description, a photo, price history. Let's choose one more, maybe a review. So I've chosen 5 there, and notice none of them are at the top of that alphabetic list. Now, if I go back to my overview, those 5 appear in that list. So when you mark something as important, it floats it to the top and lists it in this list, regardless of the number. If I were to choose 18 of these tables, it would put all 18 of them in the list and alphabetize them. So this allows you to specify and highlight certain objects, in this case tables, for the users. Now this is set up by the admin. You as admins have the ability to define these. Your regular users do not have this ability, and it's a global setting. So once you set it up, it applies to all of your users. So just keep that in mind. Maybe you want to talk to some of your users in these areas and say, what are the most important assets, and float them to the top. I would keep the list of this fairly small. You don't want to have 18 of 19 tables in the list. Keep it small, and talk to your users to see what they want in that. But remember, it is a global setting. Now, if I go up a level, I just did this at the product subject area. If I go up to the marketing and look at the same list, those same 5 objects appear, but they have a hollow star. That means that they were defined at a child or a nested area. They're not defined at this level. They're defined at a child level, which means you can't change them. You can look at this, but click as much as I want. I'm clicking, clicking, clicking. I can't change that because it's not defined here. It's defined at the child or the nested area.
And Richard, Paulo asked, how many sublevels can we have at business or data domains?
So you can have a total of 3. So you have a subject area and 2 sub-subject areas, a total of 3 in that hierarchy. All right. So this idea of important areas or important assets, you will define these as the admin. Your users can't do that. And of course, they can change. If you decide that product review is no longer important enough to be in this list, you simply go over here and you can remove it right here. I could remove the review right there, or on the right side, there is a drop down where you can change that. And you're probably also thinking, look, I can unlink that from the subject area at the same place. That's true. You can unlink these from the subject area in this same view. So a lot of functionality that you will find just as you click around and start seeing things. Let's go ahead and remove that. And when I go back again, there are those 4. So you have this ability to modify the view and make it even more accessible for these users. Final thing, flat view versus tree view. This happens only in the desktop. So let's go to the desktop, this one. Right here, notice I am looking at the product subject area. It's listed in this Explorer pane right there. Right there, I have this settings gear. If I click on that, I have this choice, flat view or tree view. It defaults to flat view. That means that we get these headings of, in this case, terms and tables, and everything of that type appears in the list. You may not be able to see, but I have objects here from 2 different collections. I have 14 from the AdventureWorks collection, and I have 5 from the Data Warehouse. They're all in the same list. If I wanted to see the separation and distinguish between those, settings gear, change it to tree view, and now those are separated out. The view that you're very familiar with from older versions, where you have the collection and you have the objects, you have the next collection and the objects. So you can see that either way. It does default to the flat view like that. Now, while we're here, that does bring up one final point that I want to make, and this is important. Going back to the concept of why do we even have domains? So some of the advantages there are permissioning. It allows you to control what people see. It gives the information to the right people through that presentation layer. And the third reason is this right here. In previous versions, when we were working with subject areas, you did have the ability to link objects from multiple connections or collections to a subject area, but the structure made you think it was not possible. So you did have the ability, but it wasn't intuitive. This way, you can very easily see that these objects come from different collections, but they are all part of this subject area. So it allows you to very easily grab objects from different collections. Likewise, it allows you to link any type of object. Subject areas, you were limited on what objects you could link to them. For example, you couldn't include glossary terms in a subject area. Now, basically, you can include any object type except columns. You do those at the table level. But that idea of being able to link things from anywhere and be able to link different types of objects is a big advantage of using domains. All right. Okay, that brings us back to licensing. Chase, I'm going to hand off to you.
Beautiful. And we'll touch on this briefly, not a lot of massive changes here. But as we go into licensing, what you'll see is business domains and AI documentation. In some of the more legacy versions of Dataedo is not offered. It'll be just for our current plan, as we've added a lot of different functionalities there. If you would like to discuss this, you can always contact your account manager, which for most of you will be Jonathan. And I believe on this next slide we have contact information. So if you are a customer for licensing, you can reach out to Jonathan at Dataedo. New customers, if you're interested in exploring this a little more, Patrick at Dataedo. And then for training, Richard will be your best contact. Now, one thing to keep in mind here, if you leave this webinar, you completely forget everything, you can always reach us on our live chat on our website. We're happy to steer you in the right direction if you do forget the contacts or don't have the emails. Another thing for the customers is we're discussing a little bit of licensing. We do offer significant upgrade options for legacy customers. So if it's something where you see anything with newer releases or anything that may not be included in your current subscription, please just reach out. We're happy to have a conversation. We're not going to nickel and dime you. We want to make sure that it makes sense. And for new customers, if you are interested in jumping onto it, let's have a conversation, especially with the end of the year. We are doing a few private discounts. So reach out to us and we'll make sure that you're taken care of. And then I believe from here, we'll head into some questions. Richard, the question, can you recommend a technique to identify the appropriate data elements to link to a specific domain? One approach could be name matching performed through classification, or would there be something else that they would consider?
So something that I have seen very commonly used is the engineers will actually do this for you, and they will separate these assets into schemas or different databases that pertain to the different data areas specifically. And so that is a really easy way. That's our sample data that we use here. It is all separated by schema. You noticed I went to production schema and found product tables for marketing. You can identify by schema a lot of times. Yes, also pattern matching on your table names helps you. If you have them, ERDs can help, because as you start to see what tables are related to other tables, you can say yes or no, this needs to be included. In another video, I was showing creating an ERD for person data. And as an example, I pulled in a table called person credit card. It's a linking table, and then the credit card table. So do you want to include credit cards in that person data set, or do you not? That's a judgment that you make. But those linkages, those relationships start to give you suggestions of things to do. Another way is if you have it. I know this is a stretch because we're relying on features you may not be utilizing, but that is your data lineage. If you go to a report and you look backwards at all the tables that feed data into that reporting suite or single report, you can start to identify these things all pertain or participate in the same data areas.
If you need anything, we look forward to chatting with you. But otherwise, hope you have a great rest of your day. Thanks, Richard.
Thank you all. Have a good day.